Hello and welcome to the United Devil with me, JB. Shall I say happy Sunday? How are we all doing today? It's been an absolute up and down today in terms of what's been kicking off in the chat. We've had all sorts of stuff, and we've had obviously Fabrizio Ornstein coming out with the contrary to basically what's been said. We can get into all that as well. So Jokerez, we can definitely get into that. So tonight, I'd love to know what you've been doing on the weekend, what you've been up to. I'd love you to come and join me on this Sunday night. It's going to be a really complete kind of chilled show. Going to go through the week stuff. Yeah, I'd love for you to get in the chat. I want a Sunday night really to be more about you and kind of what are. This is more about having a chat and just kind of walking through what we thought about the weekend, what we thought about particularly now the game on Saturday against Leeds. Are you worried? I know it's just a pre-season game. How did you watch that match? How are you feeling about that? Are there any indicators for you as to what we kind of need? Maybe we can just go through some of the transfer stuff. Happy for you to take me back and forth. As I say here, I try my hardest to not kind of to limit anybody with their chat. I personally am of the opinion the kind of more ludicrous the better. Again, obviously this is it's always good to have sensible chats, but again, it's a Sunday night. Happy just to have a chilled one, even if you're having a drink or you've got work tomorrow. Just have a nice quiet chilled night. So Sunday night, what can we say? So basically, first thing today, so I was out with the kids shopping for shoes for them and bits to go on 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 a trip with, and I get a check-in X as I do, and it's all kicking off. So the story was that Jokeres United try to hijack the transfer. So I did a video, I don't know, about 4:30, about that, kind of getting a little bit excited over that. Sloppy seconds, maybe some might say, um, on that one. But really, for me, I've always said this. Even early doors in some of the videos that I've done, I've always been of the opinion that I wanted to move away from the Jokeres deal as quickly as possible. As soon as I knew that Jokeres wanted to go to Arsenal, as much as I would have taken him, only on the basis, as much as I want players to come to this club, I really do. If they don't want to come here, I don't think it was a choice for him not to want to come here. But again, got to kind of factor into this as well that we were his second choice. He was our, so I do kind of get it from that perspective. But however, when there is an opportunity for you to sign a striker with the record that he's got and an Amorin player can play in his system, I think it was a fantastic opportunity and a cheeky hijack bid as well. So I got a bit excited. I saw a lot of others get a bit excited too, and yeah, quickly push back and kind of not proven to be fake, but Fabrizio basically come out, followed by Ornstein and everybody else to poo that the fact it was just I personally think it was a steer and a move from Sporting to basically tell Arsenal, come on, you need to get this deal done. Apparently, we'd put in a cheeky little bit of 60 million to try to get this deal done. Arsenal are hovering around that 55, and it could have basically just been a little play from Sporting, basically just to get this deal over the line. Obviously, as a United fan, I was fully on board with trying to hijack a deal, but Lewis says we need an experienced mid, not a striker. thank you for bringing it in to the chat. I don't disagree with you there. Lewis, I don't disagree with you at all, and we can talk again. This is a show where we can talk about that as well, and that kind of links into the striker sort of piece that I was thinking about in my own head, right? So, striker wise, after, and this is linking back to the midfield, is that watching that game against Leeds on Saturday. I think what was abundantly clear to me, and I don't know if you saw the game at all or whether you heard it or whatever, was that midfield, whoever was in that midfield for me wasn't good enough. And what was really abundantly clear is that we need another body in there. Do we need a midfielder as much as we need a striker? That's the question, I guess. I think that's a good point for us to debate now and for us to talk about is do we need a midfielder as much as a goalkeeper and a striker? So I guess if we basically had to pick in an ideal situation, we would go and get all three. We probably need two in the midfield. But I guess if you're looking from back to front, I mean, what the two concerning parts for me on Saturday were the goalkeeper, the fact that we've got a keeper who's 39, who's played professional football for us 25 years ago, was abysmal. Not him, but the fact that our second choice keeper was just awful. And panicked, and then when Onana comes back, we basically know that. And I feel you almost got to take sentiment out of it. Onana seems like a nice guy, but he's going to cost us, right? And then up top, I thought Obi did reasonably well. There was a chance for Cunha where kind of Obi took it off of his toe as it was, or could have just left it for him. But that's almost the price you pay for having a young guy up there. Really, Obi for me. As much I'd love him to kind of be that guy, and for a lot of us and a lot of other fans, wherever you fall on the OB debate, I think for me he's definitely still too young. Leeds, Tanaka was so good. Yeah, the other guy as well is I can't remember his name. The guy on the wing, Fenaki or something. What's your opinion about Cunha? Hi Hesty. What's your opinion about Cunha? I thought Cunha looked bright. What? Okay. When it's so early in the win, it's so early in the team to say, look, who looks good and who looks bad, right? But you kind of what I was looking for were these patterns of play and something to look at and to have hope with. So from what I saw, a lot of it was basically the same as last season, and that was the most disappointing thing for me. Is a lot of the players fell into these old traps. I know it's only a pre-season, but we don't have a lot of time. But there was some bright sparks. So you had the likes of Cunha was, you can just tell when he got the ball, he wanted to move forward. He was trying to move forward. He was back. He was forward. He was playing between the lines. He was getting that ball and he was trying to make something happen. And already, he only played a half, but you could see. And I think unless whatever we do for those two number 10s, I can see him getting really frustrated. So instantaneously he looks like an upgrade. Now all the players around him, he looked better than us. So Fernandes for me kind of was doing what Fernandes does. Now I've got to caveat that sort of with it's going to wipe the specs here. I've got to caveat that with that. Obviously Fernandes is probably still not right after the death of his friend. So Jota, I think you can't almost underestimate that. Obviously, it's harder for his his wife and whatever else, but the impact on these players. So Fernandes looked like he didn't want to be there, and that for me is going to be a problem for him. But Cunha, by comparison, just looks so much better, brighter, sharper. Just looked like an all-round better player. Ahmad as well. Ahmad looked very, very good. Really impressed. He just looked so bright. He looked really, really good. Leon as well. By comparison, I mean, Leon looked okay, but I think people need to temper their expectations. And then OB up front, I think he looked bright. You know, he still needs to grow as well, and he's massive. He's going to be huge, and he looks quick and he looks fast. So, you know, the fact we only had one signing effectively playing in that team, he looked like he belonged there, and he looked like one of the better players. So Cunha, for me, I've got no qualms about Cunha. I've got no issue. I've got no concerns. He already looks like one of the better senior players in that team. So striker wise, and then we're thinking about that midfield and the striker position. So Casemiro as Collier for me. When we're looking at the midfielders to come to that point, so I think that's a really, really good point. Is that when we're looking at the roster that we've got, so we've got Casemiro, Ugarte looked better. Collier just looked like non-existent. Mainu, some people said he had a good game. I thought he was quite slow. I didn't really notice him too much, really, to be fair. I can't think who else, but then when those, and Fernandes will probably play there as well. So I really worry about that midfield. Now, Richard Rios has signed for Benfica. We've had the here we go. Really disappointing. I just super disappointed in that. I don't know where we go next. So I'd love to know in chat, in terms of a midfielder, where you'd go next. So I think that, as per the poll says, I think what we are looking at, as per the game, as per what I think probably most of us agree on, is that we need to go goalkeeper, we need to go striker, and then maybe another one in the midfield with a Collier maybe going out on loan. So Lewis again says, I feel Casemiro needs to be a bench squad player, not a star. 100%. A Casemiro at this age, even though his performances last year at the back end were better, and there were actually a couple. What he does really well still is his brain is still great. You could see that there was a move in the first half against Leeds whereby you can't train that. Okay, and some of the things he does, you can't train that. It's still there, and when he gets into the positions and he can still perform, it's just physically for me, he can't do that. And I think you're right. I think he's definitely a bench player. He's definitely a squad player. I think the problem with that is the amount of games that we're going to play. Is that we're only going to be playing really Premier League games. So one of those midfielders has to go. And Casemiro, for me, when you're talking about having a bigger squad and a deeper squad, Casemiro is not a bad one to have in there. Like the fact he's going to be here for another year, I think he can be used. You know, when you need somebody to come on, you know, he'd be good for the last 20 minutes when you need to shut down a game, or as he proved in the Europa League, when you sort of need that little bit of experience and that sort of calmness in thought, then he's definitely that player in there. So you're right. Fernandes for me is too ill-disciplined. Again, I worry about him. I think he's going to quickly, if his season's going to go the way that I think it will, I think his season's going to quickly going to turn. I worry about Fernandes. Kobe Mainu, I worry about him as well. Physically, I think I don't know what they're trying to do with him. So centre midfield wise, I think that we definitely need another one in there. I don't know what type. Um, I definitely think that we need one in there, but I do think I feel we need a keeper and a midfielder. A cheaper striker will do. I think Cunha and Mbeumo will score goals. See, now that's a really interesting view because I've heard so many people say that view, and I don't think you're wrong on that. Okay, I think that when you've got Mbeumo and Cunha in your team with the amount of goals that they got, I think that's a really logical perspective to have. My my concern, see, where I would go on that one is I think we need to get someone. We need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net. Now I know Cunha and Burmo have those goals. I think that we need a. I think we need a world class striker. I don't know if we can do and where we go there. So I want somebody to put that ball in the back of the net, and then a keeper, and then you go for one in the midfield. But conversely, I don't disagree because then if you then got two number 10s, you can get those goals between them. You have somebody up front who's a little bit not as expensive, but can still put the ball in the back of the net. Um, then you can almost then spend that money on a midfield player that I think we desperately need. So Mark Harris is back in the chat. Mark Harris, a legend. That is Mark Harris. I missed him yesterday. 0-0 against Leeds. Have a massive lack of firepower, no intensity. Summed up perfectly well. Absolutely. I thought we were limp. I thought we were limp up front. There's some sort of thing there that I could say, but I'll leave that to you, Mark. No firepower up front. Back 3-5. We played the back five yesterday, which I thought was. I don't understand what that was yesterday, but we lack firepower. Obi's too young. Obi is going to be good, but he's too young. Hoyland he tries his best, but he's just not the guy. We should sub a 40 million for Watkins and try Villa. And ultimately, I think that's probably where we're going to go. I personally think we're going to go like a Watkins, Muani. We're going to go for that Šeško. I mean, I don't want to lump him in there because ultimately Šeško is a young guy. You can potentially spend that money on him, and you're going to get some back. So I can see kind of why you'd want to pay a little bit more there for him. Watkins, you're just going to accept that you need goals from him. My worry about him is that you're going to get maybe 2 to 3 years, give him a 5-year deal. How long into that 5-year deal will he dip? He may not. But if you can get him for a cheaper price, then again, that's a good option. Muani, his ratio is a goal every other game, but again, it's other than the miss in the final. I can't really say I've watched him a lot. I think he's really, really quick, but I don't know again if he's that kind of striker that we need. Hesty says, I thought our urgency was goalkeeper, but since yesterday, I think it's mid. How can our mid survive the big four? It can't. It really can't. It really, really can't. I mean, this is the problem that we got is a spine. I think we'll suffer. So if Amorin's position right now is to basically go, right, I'm going to overwhelm teams with my front 4-5 and score goals, but I'm not too concerned about the midfield battle, then I think he's lost already. He can't neglect, in my opinion, after watching that yesterday, he can't neglect that. Even though we've got a even though we've got a team of midfielders, we supposedly have these midfield like engines in there. Yesterday, for me, I think you're right. I would be clamoring for at least 3 more signings. My character says all contracts should be for 2 years with a year add based on performance and termination clause built in. I'd love that. I would love that. I'd love there to be some kind of accountability back on the players. Um, I'd personally be comfortable with a 5-year deal for a younger player, or maybe a 4+1. So for like a really young player, um, I would do a 5-year deal with them. Players over 26, maybe you do a 2+1, and with a clause. No, I agree on that, because I think the accountability should now be back on the players, and they should want to play for this club and then those contracts. So I think you're 100% right on that. It says, "What's your opinion on Tucson?" I'm guessing you mean Vlahovic. For free, I hear Juve want to terminate his contract. That's an interesting one. I think we've had those conversations on here before. I think he's a mixed bag. For me, I thought he was going to be like a Luca Toni. Obviously, depending on how old you are, Luca Toni's been in many of my dream teams for the World Cup for Italy. I thought he was going to be like a Luca Toni kind of style, kind of thing. He played for Bayern as well. That sort of kind of really tall striker. But he sort of ended up not being like that. He's injury-ish prone, but not. He gets injuries, but they're not really bad ones. He just kind of seems to be out, like here and there. Had quite a lot of muscle strains last year, but he still scored goals. So my only thing to say there would be, he's got a left foot. The two red flags for me personally would be, why is the contract ending? Is there a reason behind that? Is there a medical issue that we don't know about? So they're just going to pay him off because it's easier to pay him off, and there's a medical issue. If not, then that's fine. That's a red flag for me. And then the second red flag for me is, can he do it in the Premier League? Is he physical? Is he fit enough? Doesn't mean to say that you can't play in the Italian league. The Italian league for me is slower. It's just a different league, and I wonder whether Vlahovic could do it. I think if Vlahovic, if it's a choice between Calvert-Lewin and again, I've been saying on here, and others have been saying, I still think there is some until that position is filled up. Calvert-Lewin, I think, is in the ether. Choice between Calvert-Lewin, Vardy, Wilson, and Vlahovic. Vlahovic for me every day of the week. However, if we are talking like Muani, Watkins, Šeško, then those are above him. So I wouldn't mind a Vlahovic on a free. Then you could give him a slightly bigger contract and another striker. And then OB, Højlund, I don't know what we do with him. So I think Vlahovic for me would really depend on kind of what we do as an additional striker, yes, but as a main striker, unless we go back to a world-class midfielder, and then we go for a keeper as well. So it really depends, I think, on how we chop and change for those positions. Because I think what's really clear after watching that game is not only do we need a striker, we also need a midfield player and a keeper. So I think you can chop and change, and I wonder where you think. So I'm going to push this out, because for me this is a chilled show. This is not about my opinions and what I think. What I would do is, so Philip 98 says central midfield pivot is a concern. Also struggling to sell players. Keeper situation, striker in your. The Glazers need to go. Let's keep the pressure on them. Got to hope for the best club in this mess. I'm going to get me on my soapbox, Philip. I will get on my soapbox. This is a Sunday night. We can mix and match and tangent. I've got tons of things to speak about. Well, we can go on this, and I think the different opinions on this, the better. I am Glazers out, in your out. I have been the whole way through. I will not budge on that unless we get rid of the debt, unless the debt's gone, the Glazers are gone, Ineos buys the whole club. Pretty much for me, it's Ineos out. I think Ineos have enabled the Glazers to stay here. I think this is all about profit. I think this is all about money. This is all about what little can they do to get the maximum out. This is nothing but Sir Jim trying to get money out. So that's me. Yes, Ineos and the Glazers are starting to do something now, but for me, that's what they should be doing. That's standard. That's what we should be doing. Where we finished in a season where we finished 15th, we've got we've got two signings now. One of them played yesterday, and we had a side that finished 15th. So what they're doing now is the minimum they should be doing. They're starting to get players out now, but that's not enough. So what they're doing now is the minimum that they should do. It's going to take more for me to even acknowledge that they're doing some kind of job. So that's where I am on it. Doesn't mean that people can't have their different opinions. That's for everyone else, but that's where I stand on that. And there are other places that you can go and watch who will go, oh well, they're doing an okay job, give them 5 years and they'll have a plan in place, and so Jimmy's going to be great. And I'm sorry, we need this now. We've been starved of this for 12 years. We have an amount of debt over this club, so what they're doing needs to be done now. And you're right, they need to go and they need to leave the club tomorrow, and I'm fully support and get behind that 100%. So who says I would take is that Liverpool Nunes? Not for me. If that's who you're talking about, not for me. Liverpool players for me, I mean, I'm not, that whatever you think about them, just not for me. It's just not something that I would be comfortable with being on board with. It'd feel really, if that's who you are talking about, is the Liverpool striker. I just don't know if I could get beyond that. I don't know if I could get beyond a Liverpool player that we tried to sign as well, and then he went to them. So whether he's good or bad, I don't think he's right for us. So it'd be absolutely no from me. But again, opinions on that. Fantastic. Šeško, I think I'm torn on the striker. Do we go Premier League proven in terms of Watkins? I don't think Watkins. I think Watkins is one of those ones where it could either be a really expensive mistake in terms of he's good. Watkins could be like a Van Persie, and what I mean by that is obviously Van Persie was an amazing player. What I mean is like you bring in a striker like that, he's not going to be for long term. He's going to be for a season or two, and you buy them for the goals. You basically know that you're buying them for the goals. Now, good point there with Šeško is too expensive. But if, for example, Watkins, he's 29, going to be 30, 60 million. Šeško, you're looking 65 to 70 million. At that range, I would go and get Šeško younger. I think his ceiling's probably higher. Younger player, worst case scenario, you can sell him on, you'll get something for him. If you sell at 65, 70 million. I mean, we're even talking really, Højlund, we could probably still get 40 for him. And he's been a bag of crap. So Šeško is okay. Then you can still get cash for that. So I think we need to consider that. If you can get Watkins down to 35, maybe 40, maybe. I don't even know if that's too expensive. And as long as he's not on a 5-year deal, then maybe you go down that route. I think where these world-class strikers now have pretty much gone. So Osimhen has gone to Galatasaray. I think that's a massive waste. No disrespect to the Turkish league, it's a completely different league. But for me, that's I think that's a waste. Luis says Arsenal were told a 90 million plus ad. That's an interesting one. Obviously, at that price, it's an absolute no for me. Ekatike kind of went for 78 million. I think now what's happened, I think with Ekatike going for 78 million, Gyökeres kind of around that 55 to 60 mark. I think those are good benchmarks to get that Šeško deal down. I think 90 million. I don't think that's pounds, is it? You can correct me on that. I don't think it's pounds, but I think 90 million. I think where we are with the market and the players that have been and gone. 78 for Ekatike, 60s, 55, 60 for Gyökeres, Osimhen, 60, 78, 68. I think that's 68, I think. I can check that, actually. Osimhen. What's he gone for? So 70 million euros, 80 million euros, whatever that is. 80 million euros, what's that, about 70 odd, 74, 80 million euros in pounds. So he's gone for 69 million pounds apparently. So you're talking around about 70 million. So 75 million. So again, it really depends on their appetite to do that. So I think the striker situation is one of those that I think is going to either be an out the blue Šeško move, and we just go, right, we're just going to go all in for that. There is a risk with that 100%. Or do we then bang out a deal for like a Watkins, who if we could get that down 45, then potentially that we go there. But I think what is abundantly clear for me after watching that game against Leeds pre-season, again, I have to prefix that, is that we definitely need a striker. But again, we're going to need more than one. So I don't know if you're going to go for two strikers. If Højlund stays, I don't know. So that's a position. Goalkeeper wise, we can round that up as well. Goalkeeper wise, so I think we're in for Senne Lammens. I think that's where we're going to go. I'm convinced. I think a Martinez move. I'm not against Martinez at all, so I am not against that one bit. But I think that a lot of these other deals, if there's a swap deal potentially with a Garnacho going in that way, but for me it'd have to be a Garnacho with some money. Amorin persevering with Bruno Delos, sure, Højlund will get him the sack. He's not learning. I'm going to make this point, and I'm going to come back to that because I agree, because I thought they were awful. Yeah, so I think I'm going to go Lammens. That's I think Antwerp and us. We've had connections in the past. So Senne Lammens is Raw. Is Antwerp. We've had plays between the clubs before. I think we sent what's his name? Is it Jang Dong Fanju went there, and Luke Chadwick went there as well. So we sort of had a little bit of history between the clubs, and I do think we deal quite well. So I think there are indicators there that Senne Lammens, who's been scouted quite a lot, has been scouted a lot more than I thought. I think that's where we're going to go to. I do. I'm convinced. That that's where we're going to go to. I don't disagree with that, but again, it depends on what your opinion on that is. Really, is do you want to go for a proven keeper, or do you want to oust Onana, get him out just so he's gone, or do we then again go and take that chance? And yeah, again, these positions are so open right now. Do we go for that replacement straight away, or do we kind of go for that next one up? 23, who's kind of on that cusp now. As Beto, apparently I think Everton have already accepted an offer for him. I think he'd be. I'm not sure. I think for me, he falls into that. Can't remember his name now. Played for. Does it that the Belgian midfielder that went on from Everton, who went to Aston Villa, reminds me a little bit of him. I just think it's anything better than what we've got now. And then to basically come back to Mark's point there, hijack Trafford. Yeah, I think that's it. Yep. Onana. Yeah. Like, how can I forget that name? I think he reminds me a little bit of Onana in respect that, well, he's 27. Sabato is 27. That experienced player, 25 million. Again, you could argue again that that's a bargain, But are we smart enough to look at these sorts of players? And I don't think we are. Trafford, yeah, he's basically gone back to City. Hijack, yeah, we're not hijacking that deal. Yeah, we're not in that position to hijack anything right now. I'm trying to think of a joke. We can't. We can hijack a. We can. I can't even think of a joke for that one. But yeah, yeah. There's just no way that we're going to hijack that deal. And to go back to Mark Harris's point is if Amorin. So what was interesting is during the watch along, again, some good chats, and then after as well, talking about how people view football in a different way. So I go with the eye test, and people watch games in all different ways. So I thought that so Joel's in the house. Trafford, a City keeper needs to leave first. Also, City does not have a first right to buy the player since its clauses is in his contract. I thought that deal was nearly done. I thought we had a here we go from Romano on that one. So that's an interesting one. Let me have a little butchers. I'm sure you're right, Jar, because you're always on it, mate. I have to look that one up. If somebody wants to if you can find it in the chat before me, then that's an interesting one. So it says from Fabrizio 2 hours ago that James Trafford and City, exclusive story from the Master. Trafford has accepted to return to City if the two clubs can reach an agreement. He's keen on the move. In talks with Burnley to reduce the 40 million clause to buyback. Deal still depends on a keeper exit. Bang on. See, Joe in the chat, mate. On it. So I read that. Fine, I'd say to do that, but I don't think we're in that position, and we are that good to be able to do that. I wouldn't be against that whatsoever, and I think that would be a good move. But I don't think we've got the appetite just yet to fight anyone to hijack a deal. But again, who knows? We are moving quite fast on that one. That's Jeff Hughes. Hi, mate. He says we should look at Calvert-Lewin, Ramsey, and Didi so we can address three key positions for big improvements. Really? I mean, I look, if you're serious, right? I can leave the chat, deal with that, right? As I say, I'm not against on discussing opinions, right? I think it's really important. People are going to have different opinions to us, different opinions to me. Jeff, I think that's a very interesting three there. Calvert-Lewin, I've been saying this, so if you've watched this, again, feel free to have your opinions on him. Calvert-Lewin is, for me, the stuff of nightmares. Is definitely he's Bobby's in the chat, legend of the chat. Yeah, Jeff, I for me, Lewin is a stuff of nightmares I've been saying is I still think that we are potentially some sort of link. I sort of hope not, but Calvert-Lewin for me is an absolute no. Ramsdale, is he better than Onana? I don't know. If it was Ramsdale or nothing, I'd rather a cutout of Onana than Onana. And is Ramsdale better than a cutout of Onana? I don't know. I don't know. If it was Ramsdale or nothing, maybe, but not as when you've got Lammens, who's 23, 17 million out there. Nah, doesn't even figure. And Diddy has been touted around, and he's got a £5 million clause in there. It's a no from me. I understand why you do it. I understand if you wanted numbers, but the problem with that is we've got numbers now. So for me, what you'd have to do is you'd have to get someone like Collier out. And is he better than Collier? I don't think he is. He'd be a cheap deal to do, but I don't think is he. For me, I ask myself, is he better than what we've got? I don't think he is. So, but I'd understand why people would do that deal because he would be cheap, but he's cheap for a reason. He's still 27, 28 years old. Leicester did go down. It wasn't as if he shined in that team last season. So of all those three you've suggested, and Lewin for me is an absolute no. No, just no. He's going to come there and score tons of goals. I doubt it. Ramsdale for me, I think he's flattered to deceive many times. But again, is he better than Onana? So I'd probably go for Ramsdale if I had to. If there was gun to my head, I would. But I personally wouldn't want any of those three. So where I think we're gonna go, again from Fabrizio, that there are, and he's playing his hand cool here. Is that there are internal discussions on do we go expensive on a keeper? Not expensive because price doesn't really secure like a good player, but the internal discussions are: do they go for a ready-made keeper or do they go for a kind of youth player, which is or younger, ready to go into a kind of number one position, but currently a number two. What happened to Man Utd under Ten Hag? He was so good. I reckon it's the system. I think personally, for me, I think he was overplayed. I think what people underestimate, and at times I can be the same with this as well. You see a young player and they do well, and then you go like fantastic. He's done really well. He's 17, 18 years old. Play him, and he gets overplayed. But they don't physically. They're still going to grow until they're 20, 21. So I think Mainu, I think he was burnt out. I think he was overplayed. I think he should have been managed better. I think we relied on him far too much. We were so starved of good players that he was forced to play Euros as well. So I think with him, I just think he's fallen off, as young players can do when they're played too much and they're not bedded into the right way. So I think that you might start seeing him come back this season. If he doesn't, he's still young enough. I think the system, I think he is still learning the system. He doesn't know where he fits. I still couldn't tell you where Mainu fits. There is a couple of positions he could play, but I don't know right now what he is. I just want him to come back. I want him to come back and want him to be that kind of young, hungry, tenacious player that he was. So I think that this is a big year for him, and I think he's either going to come back this year and be very, very good. I don't know where he plays, or he's not going to fit the system, and then he'll be sold. So I just hope not. There's a new contract in the works, so we'll see what happens there. Jeff Hughes says you guys are too focused on names. Calvert-Lewin, if we keep him fit, offers much more than Rasmus and will complement Cunha or Mbermo. In Diddy's legs in the midfield is what we need to transform our engine room. Those are all valid points, Jeff. I am not going to poo-poo you. I'm not going to say that you're wrong for that. Again, it's an opinion, and you're welcome to have that opinion. Calvert-Lewin at one time was, as all English players are at one time, was touted as the next best thing, and he was going to be this greatest thing. And I am not going to doubt that there was talent there. I think injuries ravished him. I think it's destroyed his career. I fit Calvert-Lewin. I would love to see him play with those two players, but for me, I think his body can't cope. I think he's just like a Luke Shaw. I think he's done. I think he won't stay fit, and I think you said it there. I think if he stays fit, then he offers much more than Højlund. And for me, that's the question mark. There is ifs and buts. Rasmus, for all of his faults, he's still a young guy. I think he offers. I think what Rasmus offers is availability, and as much as that's not necessarily a thing, it was for us last season. I think the fact that Rasmus is available. Look at Lewin. And I'm not poo-pooing Lewin, and I don't think he's the stuff of nightmares because of him as a player as he was. It's because of his injury record. He's just, and he's not the player he was. And I am not going to say that he's not going to go somewhere, and potentially he could put it all to his past. But I don't want to take that risk. We can't be taking those risks anymore. And for me, it's a no, not based because I'm being a snob or anything. It's basically based on facts. For me, it's based on facts. And I don't want him anywhere near the club. I think he could go off and do a job for somebody else. But I think time will tell, and I think I'll be right on this one. I think he's going to go and play, but he'll be out for most of that. And that's a shame. And that's a shame because he promised so much, but sadly injuries, and that happens to some players. In Diddy, a couple of years ago, yes. I don't know what's happened to him. I don't know if he's. The thing for me is he's been in that Leicester team, and there were lots of teams around that time screaming for defensive midfielders, and nobody's coming for him. If he was a cheap deal, I wouldn't mind taking a punt on him, maybe. But again, my only caveat to that would be: is he better than what we've got? Will he actually add legs into that for a cheap deal? If there's something that we could do, if you sent Collier on loan and you brought him in, then potentially that could work. You know, I'm not dismissive of that. But if we're talking that's a midfield signing for us to challenge for top four, then for me that would just not happen. It says our players can't play 3-4-2-1 formation. Some are too slow for the pace like Sporting. Agreed. Well, that was obviously against Leeds because we were playing a 5-2-2-1. So if we play like we did it against Leeds, then you're right. We are playing a counter attack. We're playing with a defensive back five, and you could see that. You could see what Amorin was trying to do in the first half of that. Leon is pacey. Leon is pacey. Physically, he looks good, but positionally, I thought he looked a bit suspect. If we play Luke Shaw down as a left-sided centre back, if that's our plan, then again, I thought he wasn't great, but I think Luke Shaw is one of those players that splits a fan base. Rambo, what was love that name? Be calm, fans. We're doing the right thing, but not rushing into things. Everything will fall into place. Um, I'm glad. I'm glad that you're calm on that. I think that my opinion is slightly different to yours. Um, Lewis, no need to rush. Um, I think that the problem is that in my view, the whole be calm, not rush. We want to walk into the right deals. Well, we walked into the Embermo deal. So this is based on logic for me. This is from what I see, and definitely you're entitled to your opinions. Is that I'm more than happy to. I'm pretty calm, right? But logic dictates to me that if we're slow in the market and we know we need positions, so we know we need a keeper, we know we need a striker, we know we need certain positions. If we are slow in this market, those players go. And then what ends up is that we're left with what we've done for the last 12 years is we panic on the last day. So I'm not necessarily one to bite, one to snap. I stay calm, but I don't necessarily buy into that whole. Oh, we need to walk to the decision that's right rather than run into a wrong one. Well, we spent 7 weeks walking to a decision where we should have done that in the first week. So Brentford wanted 70 million, or they changed the price, and I don't believe they changed that price at all. And we spent 7 weeks trying to bring them down. So what I can only I don't disagree with that statement, but from what I can see, Ineos and the Glazers have doing what they've always done. So we don't if we walked into decisions. So by that, Luis, see you later, buddy. Hopefully you can come back as well. So my point here is, you look at Liverpool. Ekatike linked with him a couple of days ago, and they've signed him. Like it's. I see it this way. Basically, live a shot at doing what we used to do, getting all the next best potential talent. Look where they. I generally feel that they will start to struggle. I'll come back to that. Yo says, so far we've gotten maybe two of the very best from the league. We might get one of the most promising defenders, and we look to get a good striker. This could be an incredible window. I love the positivity, and I do. I really like this mixture of opinions. I sort of fall somewhere in between the two. Incredible window. So incredible window for me, Joe. I always love how you're positive, and you again. I think you're very much like me. You do have your strong opinions. I think that we're looking at So Rambo, again, I think you do make some good points. So we're basically live a shot at doing what we used to do. I do think Liverpool are taking a couple of risks. I'm a big fan of this. I think we need to be careful. I think we need a combination. I think going for the prem proven plays does remind me of what Fergie used to do and what we used to do. Very much what we used to do. So we used to get these Premier League proven players and then supplement in either a youth player, or we supplement in a foreign player. And as you said, there is that effectively that's what we used to do. Liverpool, I think that the thing I will say in conjunction with what you said about walking to the right thing and we need to calm down, I agree with you. But the problem with that for me, and this is the problem for me is that they've got, and they might have just blown 78 million on a striker from the Bundesliga, which I'm not convinced on. I'm I'm not convinced him. Verts, again, that's a lot of money. So we'll see. But it's not necessarily so much the signings for me. It's the way they're doing it. It's it's the speed, and nobody knows what they're signing. In our case, most people know um, what it is we're doing. So for me, it's I don't mind walking and being calm if there's a game plan. And right now, I, I don't think there was. I think we have now reacted to the market. We've reacted to what other teams are doing. And this is what I want to move away from. I don't want us to panic. And I think with the right team behind us to actually get these players in, I think we can probably all be a bit calmer. So I think if Ineos are here for the long term, the better windows we have, the more efficient windows we have, I think the fan base will be calmer. I think the fan base is so rolled up now because of the many years of spin and what we tend to do. So I think that the more efficiently we do things and the better plays that we get in. So, for example, in Burma and the Cunha deal, if we can get those players in, another couple of players, and they're actually pretty good, because I think there's a 60% rate hit of players in, or 40% hit, so 50-50 ish. So as long as the players that we sign start to do stuff, then I think the fan base will be calmer and have more trust in Ineos. I won't, but that's fine. So Joe says that Rashford is gone. I did not see that happening. Sancho looks to leave. Anthony maybe going to Atletico, and Garnacho will leave. In relation to your comment on the incredible window, for me, incredible window means that we get a striker in, and I mean a decent striker. We've got depth in that position, so whether we go get another free one, then that's fine. A midfielder, a goalkeeper, adding to the two that we've got, we get rid of a Garnacho, Rashford's gone, get rid of Sancho, Anthony, Casemiro for me again would be gone. If we can do all that, then I think we've had I think I wouldn't call it I personally wouldn't call it an incredible window. I would give it probably a 7.5, because we've still got a load of crap in there. I mean, compared to other windows that we've had, that would be a very good window, but I still think we need more. For me, for it to be incredible, we need to have got all of our top targets, which is difficult to do when you're not in the Champions League. I'll admit that. But for me, for it to be an incredible window, we couldn't have that because we were a victim of what we didn't do against Spurs. So for me, it's not going to be an incredible window, but it could be a hell of a lot better, or it was going to be better than I thought it was the beginning of this week. So I'm definitely I'm definitely happier. So let's see where we are in August. Rambo says, I also think we need to give Cheeto a chance. We have many diamonds in our youth, seriously talented kids. Everything will fall into place once the Deadwood is gone. Sir Jim ain't no pushover in this market. He's going to let clubs bully us. He's not going to let clubs bully us in spending. Now, Rambo, obviously, I can tell you are a Sir Jim Glazer, maybe not Glazer, but a Sir Jim supporter, and I like that because that's you're my yin to my yang, right? So again, you clearly you clearly like how Ineos do business. You hate then that's fine. Then that's fine. I think we all sort of hate the Glazers, but again, I like that. I like your opinion. I may not agree with it, but I like the fact that you were saying that Sir Jim is no push over in the market, and he's not going to let. And I like that opinion. My caveat to that already would be Brentwood wanted 70 million. We spent 7 weeks negotiating that deal, and we paid the money that they asked. Brentford, to get to their ground, you have to go through someone's house. And they were in League One not too long ago, Championship. No, I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm just that's my evidence right now to say that this is why and I'll always try to give you my evidence or my viewpoint as to why I don't necessarily agree. I don't think you're wrong, but that's why I don't agree. If we get, I'd love Sir Jim. I would love Sir Jim to buy this club, buy the whole of the club, right? Um, turf the Glazers out, buy the club, and do what he wants with it, right? If he bought the club out, cleared the debt out, I'm a Sir Jim fan. That's fine, okay. But right now, while he's enabled the Glazers, while the debt is still here, that's kind of where I'm at on it. But I like your different opinion. You're the yin to my yang, so I kind of like that opinion. That that's a good place to be. Sadar said so. Brentwood did get all what they wanted, but United also got what they wanted in a 4 year installment instead of 60 million up front. Um, yeah, but again, I think that's commonplace now, isn't it? I mean, if that was if everyone else was paying 60 million up front, and Ineos were just like, oh, we've managed to get this deal now for 4 years, then I'd be just like, okay, yeah, fine, that's an amazing deal. But I mean, it is a deal that everyone else does, so I'm not blown away by it. I mean, the fact it's in 4 installments, I'm happier with that instead of 3. So that does give us some leeway. But in terms of like, paying over 4, uh, I'm not blown away because that's what we do, right? So that's what most clubs do now. So yeah, we've probably paid a bit more to like have it over those 4 years, but I'm personally not blown away by that deal. I also think they backed us into a corner on that, but we got the deal done. We got there in the end, and I think that's the most important thing on now what we see. If Mbermo now can actually bring that to the pitch. Mike Harris says, doesn't matter which player comes, you have a defensive, inexperienced manager learning on the job. P45 incoming. If Ineos do not deliver him more players, if his system, after watching that Leeds game, he's got 4 games. I truly believe that Amorin outers, or maybe not, maybe you don't necessarily want him out as such, but if your opinion of him is already low, these next 4 games need to really turn it around for him, because otherwise, if he loses all those 4 games, or for me personally, I'm going to try and cover all of those games. What I want is to start seeing his patterns of play and what it is he's trying to do. If he keeps to that back 5 defensive nonsense that we saw, then Mark, you're 100% right. He is already gone before like the season starts, really, because if you're defensive going into a season, when your system and you're priding yourself on your system of playing that attacking, flowing style of football, then you're already in trouble. Rambo says, I'm sure his true mission is to get the Glazers out. I hope so. Rambo, I think you are very optimistic. I like that. I like you want this Sir Jim on a white horse coming in to save the club, local lad. I don't buy it. I think he had an opportunity to buy it. There's too many red flags for me. There's too many things already out there. The fact that Sir Jim could have bought the club out, but Sir Jim is there basically to profit from the club. The regeneration project needed a figurehead. Sir Jim does that. He has all the people in place and in power. Sir Jim is basically here to offer the Glazers a step up, somebody to be the front, and then they're all going to make a load of money. And then he will probably leave and cash out in 8 years' time. But I am more than prepared to be proved wrong on that. And Rambo, feel free to come back at me when Sir Jim buys the whole club and everyone's holding hands and happy. So I'm more than prepared to be proved wrong on that one. Paying over 4 years, that does help us a lot. It really does help us a lot. But my view on that is not some new thing that they've done. Their extra year does help, so I'll give them a little sweet for that one. So it just means that now we can do other deals. So I'll be fair and I'll give him a little gold star for that one. Chief Irib says so Jokerez's dad has been in tears after day 415. Here we go. I need to check that now to see if that has actually has broken, because that'd be hilarious. Day 145. Here we go. Rama says we're also getting Rashford's wages. Yeah, again. I think that's a good deal. I don't want to keep banging on about Ineos and the thing to do, and I think credit where credit is due. Rashford needed to go, and I think that this is the best deal that we could do within the time limit. I don't think we could do. I think that's it. So I think they've done well there to get him off the books and to get his wages paid. Let's see how good of a deal, or let's see how good of a deal that is going to be next year. I'm sure that there'll be some clauses or some stuff in there that we don't know about. Robert Water says he's a businessman. Of course, he's the fall guy if this goes wrong for the Glazers. He knows this. Are you? Can I ask? Are you on the Sir Jim payroll? Are you Sir Jim? No. No. These are things. These are things that we'll never know. And again, if this is the case and his plan is to buy the club again in a couple of years' time, one of us will be proven right. I really don't care about that. But if Sir Jim is the saviour and he is here to save the club, then we're going to see it. I don't think the Glazers are going to go. Ineos are here for the long term, so we're going to see the next year or two. We're going to see if that's true. Chief Arab says, "I don't trust his tactics. It's so static. Even Pep can get easily beaten these days. We need free flow football. This system, our club, hell, even Nani does better than our forwards." Yeah, I still need to remind myself, and I still need to be calm. As Rambo says, we need to be calm, and I agree with that statement. Pre-season, it is pre-season. And I agree with you, Rambo. I do agree with you on that one as well. I think you both make really good points here. Is that the Amorin system against Leeds was too static? We did play a back five when we're supposed to be, as you say, Chief, we're supposed to be playing this free-flowing football, free-flowing system where we get goals. And Rambo correctly says the thing is the system. The players don't believe in the system, and these are the two things that are going to kill it. Is that the players don't believe in it, and if we do play this static football, it is going to hurt us, and it's going to hurt us badly. So this is what basically Amorin. This pre-season is so important. And this is why it's so important that we need to move quick to get these players in. So Amorin, so we can really see what he's the point. Our Chief said, yeah, but what's the point? Why would you buy someone who plays with and then buy? Amorin is Ineos's guy. Amorin is Ineos's guy. And they need to buy players. You can't not buy a new manager players, because then you just, what is it you're trying to do? You might as well not sack the previous manager and just let him continue. But again, that's my opinion. Sajal says, we drew to Leeds, fine. We also, it was Leeds ahead of them on when it came to fitness. Also, 19 for chances in favour. Yeah, and Joel, again, I think we need to remember this as well, is that it was pre-season. I think it's so easy, and I was guilty of it as well, to say, this was it's like PTSD, right? Watching the same thing again in the Leeds game, hoping that it was going to change, but it was pre-season. You know, I thought at times Leeds looked better than us. I'm not going to agree with Joel on that one because I personally and Joel is entitled to your opinions as well. I thought that we finished the game better. I think second half physically we looked better, but I also thought that Leeds looked better at certain points. They were better with the ball than us. It looked like we were trying too hard at times. And there were, the midfield for me was a massive issue. But again, it is pre-season, and next week or the week after, whenever the games are, this is when we can start discussing this, I think, in a little bit more depth. So I think we've got to give him a game or two, maybe 2 or 3 games in, because it's not long until the start of the league. So I think we do need to give him a little bit of leeway. So Joel says, did you see what happened to Newcastle? The biggest embarrassment I have ever seen, Aston Villa losing to 3-1 to a tier German club. That was Ten Hag, wasn't it? Ten Hag got beat. Well, Ten Hag got smashed up by an under-20s team. I think it's so hard to tell. I think pre-season, I think is so difficult to tell. But I think that we're going to be there or thereabouts, hopefully, towards the end of the season. Mbim and Cunha are both players that burst in with energy, let the wing backs dictate crosses, and Bruno. Joe, I didn't know that at Leverkusen, but they got absolutely smashed. They got battered. It was 5-0. They got absolutely smashed. Yeah, and this is what I think I'm looking forward to now is. And Bermo's here, and Bermo will come. Cunha will be there as well. So I think the next game, I think we hopefully should start seeing a kind of what his structure is going to be of that team. And pretty much, guys, I think I am going to have to end the show there because I could do this with you guys on here. I think this chat. The one thing I will say on here is that whatever we talk about, we may not 100% agree with everything we say. I am one for if you have a polar opposite of you to me, fantastic, because we can debate. You can teach me things. Maybe you can not change my mind, but you can at least kind of like maybe open me up and open my mind to other views. And this is why I think it's really good that we come on here and we debate and we do this more often. So I am going to go on that note. I could talk about this all day. I think we've pretty much been through most of the stuff and more. What I've got to say is thank you for being in the chat, for making this show longer, because I really love the chat in here. The opinions on here are brilliant, and this channel, and I mean this, is literally nothing without you guys in the chat. Like you guys coming here, just us debating football and debating it, and like having a chat. It really means so much to me. And I just thank you for being here. I love the opinions in the chat. Thank you so much to people like Chief Herb, Joel, to Rambo, who I think probably now has the best name. Rambo, that's a great name. To Mark Harris, legend, who's always in here. Bobby, it comes in and says hi. Lewis, who's here today. Jeff Hughes was in here today. Luke was in here today as well. I hope I've not missed anybody out, but yeah, thank you so much for being in the chat. I'll try and do this every day, and if anything breaks, obviously I'll be back on it as well. So thank you so much for being here, guys. I do have to go. I can't believe this has been another over an hour show. Please, amazing. Obviously, like, subscribe really helps us out. Get this out to your friends, mates, bring everyone here. Let's have a good old chat. I'll be doing it again tomorrow. So thank you. Have a great rest of your evening, whatever you do. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you so much. Good night, all.